Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming here to Brooklyn Borough Hall for the Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026 Brooklyn Borough Board meeting. We are streaming live via WebEx, and a recording of this meeting will be posted after the meeting to the Borough President's YouTube page for reference and review in accordance with Open Public Meetings Law. I'm Spencer Williams, Director of Land Use and Topography for the Brooklyn Borough President and serving as Chair of the Board. This evening, I am joined by my colleague,
Carol Ann Church, Director of Community Boards and Co-Chair.
Okay, we will begin with a roll call.
I'll start with the council members tonight. If you're not to designate the principal, please give your name when the entity is called. 33, Wrestler. Thank you. 34, Gutierrez. 35, Hudson. Thank you, Ellie. 36, Osei. Thank you. 37, Nurse. Thank you. 38, Aviles. 39, Hanif. 40, Joseph. 41, Mealy. 42, Banks. Mm-hmm. 43, Zwang. 44, Felda. 45, Louis. Thank you. 46, Narcisse. 47, Santos Suoso. I'm sorry. 48, Vernikov. 49, sorry, 50, Carr. Okay, we go to the community boards. Where's my community? Shoot. Thank you. Community Board 1. Thank you. Community Board 2. Community Board 3. Community Board 4. Chair Camacho in the house. Community Board 5. Community Board 6. Community Board 7. Thank you. Community Board 8. Community Board 9.
CB9 Chair, Pro Baptiste President.
Thank you. Community Board 10. Community Board 11. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. Thank you. Community Board 14. Community Board 15. Thank you. Community Board 16. Thank you. Thank you. Community Board 17. Community Board 18. Borough President is represented at the head table.
We have quorum. Thank you all for being here this evening. Members of the board received a copy of the agenda and the minutes from the last meeting prior to this meeting. I, as chair, would like to make a friendly amendment to the agenda to have our colleagues from the MTA present first this evening. So we have 2 public hearings. I think the quality of that conversation might be a little stronger if we start earlier. Any opposition to that amendment? Okay.
Objection.
All right. All those in favor of approving the amended agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We will now move on to the approval of the minutes from the 5/5/26 meeting, the Borough Board. There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the 5-5 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are approved. I am going to kick it over to my colleague for some member updates and welcomes.
Sure. Okay, good afternoon once again. Thank you all for coming. We have a number of events. The flyers are at the door. They've also been sent to your board or will be sent, the ones that haven't yet been, so that we're asking you to please help us with getting the word out. Tonight is a very special meeting. I want to recognize two of our chairpersons who hope this is not the last time we see them at the Borough Board, but they are passing on the reins of leadership. And that is, in chronological order, Chair Pena. We will miss you. You always kept us on track with parliamentary procedure. And I really like working with you in this capacity, and I'm happy that you'll still be on the board and sharing some of that knowledge. And Chair Baptiste, who is usually being voluntold to do something and steps right up into it and gets it done for us. Chair Baptiste led the committee to amend our bylaws, which hadn't been amended in a couple of decades. And I know that everyone in this room appreciates the more modern format of our bylaws. And so I want to thank you both for your service as members of the Borough Board. And of course, as chairs of your community board, it's a big job. It's unpaid, but you guys gave it, gave it your all, and that you're continuing as board members. And I know that you will help with the leadership transition. So I just really wanted to acknowledge you and your time in the leadership position at your boards. Thank you.
We will now open for member updates. If you have an update or would like to address the board, as a reminder, you can turn your placard up and we will be calling you and a microphone will come so that folks who are streaming online and for the video can hear. So if there are updates, please, Member Baptiste.
Hello? Thank you. First of all, thank you so much. That was so kind. This has really been a pleasure working with all the chairs here. This is service, but it's been so much better being around quality people who are committed to the betterment of Brooklyn. So I thank everyone for everything you've done, for giving me the honor of working with you. Additionally, I wanted to just make a quick announcement with regards to CB9. We have a community fair that we've done annually for the last 4 or 5 years. It is scheduled to happen this Saturday, the 6th. It's going to be held at St. Francis de Sales School for the Deaf, located on Eastern Parkway and Plasson Avenue. So all members are invited to come. Please invite your constituents as well. It's a great event where we get to come together with community partners and share resources and let some of the different CBOs and organizations basically let us know who they are and be able to pass on the good news about what's out there and what's available for the residents of the district. Thank you very much.
And we will go to your neighbor.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Kyle here from Councilman Banks' office. I just want to let you all know that on June 13th, the council member is going to be hosting a homeowners resource fair at the Church of God of East New York in the district. He's encouraging, obviously, everybody that lives within the CB5, CB17, CB18, and CB16 community boards to come out and get some resources. They're going to talk about deed theft. They're going to touch on, the Con Ed issues, and it's going to be a panel discussion as well. Thank you.
Member Camacho.
I have no update. I just want to, ask all the board, or the chairs and our council, what are we doing about deed fraud? I hear a lot of people, all they do is pass in the wind. I know I have a car and I have a deed to my car, and no one can register the car without my deed. But the Department of Finance, all of a sudden, they can take your house. Latinos and Black, are we going to try to fight with our elected officials to change the laws in regards to deed fraud? Or are we gonna sit back and let people take our places away? Because the stakeholders that do have authority over to hold our deeds are allowing scrupulous people to sign off on them and taking our homes. And all we're doing is rah, 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 rah. People get locked up. Nobody's changing the law and nobody's changing it where we can protect our homes. So my question is, are any of the boards or any of our councils are trying to fight with state legislators or whoever body may be to make it hard for people to take our homes that we couldn't afford back in the days? All of a sudden, everybody want to throw us out. So we need tougher laws. I can't take nobody's car without a title of the car. So how can someone sign off my house after I finish paying it off? And someone could sign my house away, and then I got to go through or get a lawyer. And here I am on a broke income and got to waste. And then I give up and wind up selling it to the scrupulous developers that are going to build something not for us, and creating only one-bedroom and studios. And we come with families. We don't come with roommates or a dog. I'm sorry I have to speak that way, because that's what I see. And that's what I know, because our families are in shelters. Look it up. I think our council people that are here know for a fact. So we put them in office to do our job. So here we are getting volunteered, and I'm going to keep echoing. You know, with getting pushed out. Our seniors, it's getting harder. Also, I know that you guys appoint board members, but I think their philosophy is in regards to creating a vibe among themselves and friends of and people of and that of, and not of the people. They're creating cliques, and they're following the narrative and not the people's narrative. And also not going to the community at large when they come out with resolutions. Our elected officials too, they come out with a resolution and they want it put it behind the ballot, but yet they don't come to the community boards or to the community and do a town hall and tell us what it is, if it benefits us or not, and how can we support it or not. You know, they're being exclusive and keeping things to the side, and all of a sudden, just like when term limit is up, no one turned the back of the ballot. They know what that means. And I've been 42 years on the board and 9 years as the chair. I've been in my neighborhood 65 years, my grandmother 104. And now we're getting pushed out of volunteer process. When these people just got here, they don't even know the narrative of how we felt and how we were. So I want everyone to think, how is it that you have your home for 40, 50, 60 years and someone can sign off on it, but no one can take your car because you have a title? In order to register your car, you need a title. So how are these people signing off on your house title and taking you deed fraud and creating that when there's supposed to be a mechanism to monitor our homes and to take care? That's the only way they can do it, because we're not giving them up, so they taking it from us somehow.
Chair Camacho, that is so relevant today. Can we defer more conversation on that to other business?
Thank you. Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Member Weatherspoon.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to, Good evening, everyone. I just want to announce that Community Board 3, 8, which I represent. And 16 will be hosting a Women's Veteran Appreciation Day. And that will be on Friday, June 12th at 2 p.m. at Lincoln Terrace Park. Thank you.
Are there any additional member updates? Ah, yes, Member Boozreth.
Okay, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Just two announcements, both are housing and land use related, and they're probably most useful for folks in neighboring districts and community districts 8 and 16 on next Wednesday, June the 10th. The Housing and Land Use Committee is hosting a committee meeting as more of a community informational session about a very large private development project that is in the pre-ULERT process for what's affectionately known as Smurf Village, but it's at Fulton Park Houses, which is located on the corner of Utica and Fulton. Right now, the proposed redevelopment is for 1,400 units built over about 8 to 10 years. So we want to really make sure that the community is really informed about where it is in the process and what folks are considering. So the meeting will be held, location TBD. We're down to 2 locations, but at the meeting's at 6:30 on June the 10th. And then additionally, we have another large development project that's was part of the Bed-Stuy Housing Initiative that's going to redevelop the multi-purpose center at 1958 Fulton Street. That's between Ralph and Howard Avenues. It's also going to include the former PS 28 and then some adjoining lots along Herkimer Street. That is in the information gathering process right now before they release the RFP. HPD is hosting a meeting on the 15th, Monday the 15th at 5:30 at PS 21, which is on Patchen and Chauncey. Like I said, the multipurpose center is located on Fulton Street between Ralph and Howard. So it's very close to 16 and very close to 8. So I'm sure your residents will be interested about the housing, the 100% affordable housing that's gonna be there, but also the multiple uses that will be made on the ground and lower floors.
Thank you. Member Hernandez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to share that the 44th Annual Mermaid Parade is coming up on June 20th, starting at 1 p.m. on West 21st Street and Surf Avenue. And of course, the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest on July 4th, right across from the street from Stillwell Avenue Station, which is the last stop or first stop, whatever you want to call it. So encouraging everyone, to come out and enjoy. That would be all. Thank you.
Member Brown.
Hello, everyone. A few things. So I'm gonna, in response to Community Board 16, Councilmember Mealy is gonna be doing some meetings coming up along with HPD doing their meetings. She really wants her residents of Community Board 16 and Community Board 8 to attend these meetings because it impacts those people directly. And that is a part of her district. So look out for things from the council member regarding that. Aside from that, this Thursday, is going to be the Brownsville Summer Jam, and that's hosted by the 73rd Precinct, but Councilmember Mealy is a part of it. And it is when the precinct puts on this show, and it's like a block party or whatever. And oh no, those things are happening, as well as this Saturday the 6th. There is a big family fun day event with the council member and the 77th precinct, but she's also doing a shredding event. And so she wants people to do like a mid-year shred versus the end of year shred. And that's going to be at Lincoln Terrace Park on the 6th. She's also doing that same evening at 6 p.m. a movie night, and we're going to be viewing Mufasa. So she wants like everyone in the family to come to the family fun day. If you want to take breaks, go home, you can, and then come back for the movie night. Bring chairs and set up for a really long day.
Thank you for those updates. Yes, May.
Everybody, I was like, I speak really loud, but I forgot there's a Zoom. Good evening. I'm here representing Councilmember Chiose's office, and our office is hosting a wonderful event this Saturday called the House Generations of Groove, celebrating, just celebrating house music, and just it's going to be at Herbert Von King Park, 3 to 7 p.m. We hope you can all come through. And it's going to be a fun time. It's a good kickoff to the summer. And yeah, just celebrating Brooklyn's roots to house music.
May, what was the date of that again?
It is June 6th, so this Saturday, 2 to 7 at Herbert Von King Park. And it's called Brooklyn is House Generations of Groove. Just want to shout out Chair Boostereth for that friendly reminder.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Daniel Heredia. I'm here on behalf of Councilmember Farrah Lewis. Just want to give a bit of a plug to our event that's happening on Juneteenth. That is Friday, June 19th. It will be taking place at the Brooklyn Public Library starting at 11:30 a.m. sharp. We were doing it in partnership with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, Juneteenth NYC. It's our 6th annual Central Brooklyn Celebration and Teen Entrepreneurship Expo. This is, of course, funded by the citywide Youth Entrepreneurship Initiative. So we're really excited to have them all at the Brooklyn Public Library again. So if anyone is interested in stopping by, we would love to have more attendees from across Brooklyn. Thank you.
Excuse me, Daniel, which branch of the library?
The Central Branch at Grand Emery Plaza.
Apologies. I do have a few more updates from the office of Councilmember Chiose. Just a flag on Wednesday, June 10th. Our office will be hosting Housing Court Answers. It's an opportunity for constituents to speak to HPD directly on how to understand the tenant court proceedings. That event will be at 5:30 to 7:30 at Restoration Plaza, the multipurpose room. The address is 1368 Fulton Street. We hope that anyone that has any concerns about housing court to please attend this event. And then we also are excited to announce that this month we are going to be doing plenty of activations for Raymond Bush Park. We are going to be doing a yoga series every Friday from this month from 6 to 7, and then we're going to have a kite making program from on June 27th from 4 to 6. Additionally, we also have 2 wonderful Juneteenth events, one at Brower Park. So anyone that's CB8, Irsa, my fave, and well, one of my faves. We're gonna have we're working in partnership with Friends of Brower Park and a couple of other orgs on their Juneteenth at Brower Park event. There's gonna be lots of activations that will be from 11 to 2. And then our office is hosting with Rise Project at the Urban Justice Center, also on Juneteenth. A huge event with plenty of activations, including Miss Angela Yee. And that will be from 12 all the way to 10 o'clock at night. So it's going to be a long day at Herbert Von King Park. And yes, it will be a World Cup site because we are hosting the Haiti and Brazil. We're not hosting the game. We are showing the Haiti versus Brazil game at 9 o'clock. So please come by June 19th, Herbert Von King Park. Thank you all.
Thank you. Very exciting. All right. We have a lot going on in the borough, but first, let's welcome a presentation from a team at MTA, update on the IBX. And so I will let the team introduce themselves. But I'll know that you all have been out and around in community. We'll go ahead and bring up your presentation, and then I will let you all introduce yourselves.
Right, can everyone hear us? Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katerina Patori. I'm a member of the New York City Transit Government Community Relations team. I'm joined this evening by my colleague Jordan Smith, who's the director of the IBX project, and a couple of our colleagues here in the back. We're really excited to be here to give you an update on the IBX project. We've been to a lot of your boards over this past spring to get direct sort of comments and input from your boards. We've also done a series of design workshops that we'll talk to you a little bit about. And then ahead of our summer outreach, which we're launching together, we really wanted to be able to give you an update of where we are, what's coming, and then get your feedback for where we should go this summer and answer any questions. So without further ado, we'll run through our brief presentation that some of you may have seen before. For some others, it might be new, and then we'll have some time for Q&A.
All right, thanks, Katerina. Hi, everyone. As Katerina said, I'm Jordan Smith at the MTA, leading the planning effort for the Interborough Express project. Thanks again for having us tonight. Happy to walk through kind of our presentation on the project. As Katerina noted, it might be a bit of an introduction for many of you or old news to others, but we'll do a project overview. We'll talk about what's called access to opportunities, or kind of how we're visualizing some of the benefits of the project. And then I'll run through kind of what we've been up to lately, project updates, both in terms of environmental review, as well as project design, which are kind of the two main focuses we're in now. And I'll talk about kind of some of the themes that we've heard from our latest round of outreach, and then talk about next steps. So project overview, just kind of briefly, what is the Interborough Express project? It's a new train line, essentially. We like to think of it as a transformative new project connecting Brooklyn and Queens. And we can do that on an existing rail asset today. So you can see on the map, this is a 14-mile corridor that's currently used for freight trains today. And the idea behind the project is we would introduce passenger service in that corridor that exists for freight. So basically just putting a passenger train right next to a freight train. So we would keep those two separate. They wouldn't be sharing tracks. So that's kind of the idea behind the project. And fortunately, the MTA owns the majority of this asset today. So of the 14 miles, 11 of them are owned by the MTA and operated by New York and Atlantic Railway. And then the northern 3 miles, basically from Metropolitan Avenue north to Roosevelt Avenue, is owned by CSX, which is a private freight carrier. Let's see, where should I? So, this is not a new idea for kind of introducing passenger service to the corridor. In fact, it was done over 150 years ago. There was passenger service from 1876 until 1924 in the project corridor. And then in the 90s, Regional Plan Association, RPA, who are good friends of ours, they kind of revived the idea of putting passenger service back. So in the early 2020s, the MTA, we picked up this idea as kind of a real potential for us to take a look at. We started studying it from a planning level. So that's basically feasibility. We start doing kind of desktop research to determine if this project makes sense. And our early results were that it does. And so we've kind of continued doing work, which have brought us to today. And the project has a champion in Albany through Governor Hochul. And we have funding in our capital plan, significant funding to kick the project off. Where do I point this? There we go. So what is IBX? I mentioned the 14 miles. 18 stations are proposed in these 14 miles, and it might be hard to see on the graphic, but one of the great benefits of this project is how it connects with the existing subway system. So of the 14 miles, 18 stations, connecting to 17 different subway lines. So really weaving into that existing network. over 50 bus lines, the Long Island Railroad via Atlantic Avenue, as well as Woodside Avenue, a short walk away. And then in terms of kind of the basic statistics of the project, we're expecting about 160,000 daily riders with a travel time of about 32 minutes from end to end. So I mentioned at the outset access to opportunity. So what does that mean? And you can kind of see on this graphic here how we're visualizing some of the benefits of the project. So let's suppose, one of our stations today is Brooklyn Army Terminal. So let's suppose you are standing at this location today. How far can you get within the existing transit network within 30 minutes? And that's what you can see in the dark red. So, basically, areas of Brooklyn, you certainly can't get to Queens within 30 minutes, but the areas in light red or light kind of salmon color are the areas that would be unlocked through IBX, or where can you get within 30 minutes once IBX is introduced. And what we found is that you can get basically to double the land area within 30 minutes. And there are new parts of the city that are really opened up, but more than just kind of opening up land area, it opens up opportunities. And you can see what we did is we overlaid all of these different services that you can access within 30 minutes once IBX is opened. And what we found is that you're going from this location, you're almost doubling the number of jobs you can access from 550,000 to 800 and almost 900,000, almost doubling the number of healthcare facilities within 30 minutes. And the same is true with other important resources, healthcare facilities, daycare, pre-K, cultural institutions, and the last one is working age population. So if you own a business at Brooklyn Army Terminal or thereabouts, you're doubling your potential workforce or the number of customers if you own that business. And so we did this analysis for every station along the corridor. Remsen Avenue, the results are even more stark. You're almost by a factor of 7, you're increasing the number of jobs within 30 minutes from 141,000 to almost 1 million within 30 minutes. And the numbers really speak for themselves. Healthcare facilities quadrupling, almost 10 times as many higher education facilities, daycare, cultural institutions, and then working age population by a factor of 4.3. And so we think these numbers are pretty amazing and really speak to the benefits of the project. So we did this for all 18 stations. I won't walk you through all 18, but the numbers are consistent across all stations. Okay, so what are we up to? Kind of some of the main project updates that I'll touch on. Environmental review, I mentioned at the beginning. So what does that mean? We are preparing an environmental impact statement on the project. So this is a required piece of documentation that we go through for every project like this. We hosted a number of scoping meetings. A scoping meeting is basically where we talk about, what sort of environmental impacts could the project result in. That would be noise, air quality, pedestrians, land use, all of those technical areas. So we talked about how we're looking at the study, kind of the scope of the study last fall. We had a meeting in Brooklyn College as well as Christ the King High School in Queens. 2 virtual meetings. We heard some good feedback that caused us to kind of rethink how we're doing some of our analyses, which is really the point of those meetings. We're doing the environmental impact statement now. So once that document is prepared, it's a draft, it's released, it's a public document, and we'll host a public hearing to discuss the results of that. So that's coming later this year, probably this fall, and we'll publicize those meetings and have more to share then. One of the areas that we hear a lot about, and this is one of the main focuses of this environmental impact statement, is related to property acquisition. It's something that we take very seriously. It's an existing rail corridor today, so our property needs are expected to be very minimal. But we do like to mention it just in full transparency. We're doing the work now to understand what those needs are going to be. The most important part of the work that we do is to minimize these wherever possible. It's very important to us. We understand the concern. Beyond minimizing wherever possible, we're minimizing residential acquisition. We're expecting very small numbers, but we're going to have more information to share later this year with that draft environmental impact statement. So more to come there. Rest assured, we're doing all the work that's required to understand these needs. We'll have more information soon. So that's the environmental review process. Project design is the other main focus that we're kind of working on now. So this started back in the fall. We really kicked off this project design phase. Like I mentioned, everything before this was conceptual in nature. What the design phase does is actually puts people out into the corridor. We're measuring, we're doing inspections with measuring tapes and people in hard hats and safety boots. So that's really the first phase of project design, is to get an understanding of what's there today, data collection. That leads into the civil design, which is the second phase of the design process. What does this mean? This is kind of the things that you think about with an infrastructure project. It's track, it's bridges, it's utilities, it's kind of all the heavy equipment needed to operate a train project, which is the third phase, which is the system design, or I think of it as the smart phase of the project. It's signals, communication, how do the trains talk to each other, the station design. So those are kind of how we're thinking about the three phases of work. It's a 2-year process. And then once those are complete, we'll have some decisions to make about kind of the future design or future construction phase and what that might look like. So I mentioned that first phase, which is data collection or due diligence. We have almost completed this phase of work. We've really been working kind of south to north. So we've almost completed Brooklyn. I think we have just a little work left, but we're almost there. One of the things that we did as part of this process was we wanted to flyer the communities where we were doing this data collection, just so people knew we were in the corridor. And then basically this flyer had information on the project and how they can contact us with any questions, just so no one was surprised by the presence of crews in the field. Systems design. I'll talk in a minute about some of our workshops that we hosted this spring. But one of the most important parts of this project for us is understanding what's important to people in a new rail project. How will they move through the system? We call that kind of passenger experience. So we hosted these workshops to really get information from people. We do a lot of events, and I do a lot of talking, to the community, but the point of these was to listen. And so we got some great feedback. I'll touch on that in a second. But we wanted to know kind of what's important from a safety standpoint. Wayfinding, transfers are going to be a big part of this project. So, what's important to riders from a transfer standpoint. And I'll talk about kind of what those workshops look like in a second. But I'll mention here, we call this community focus areas. So what are some of the themes that we've been hearing when we've been doing these events? And I'll touch on 2 of those here. The first one is stormwater management. So you can see a picture, apologies if you're kind of far away, but basically what this picture shows is, much of the rail corridor is below street level today, where all the water collects. Everyone knows water goes down. And so much of the tracks today are flooded. So, a big investment like this requires kind of a comprehensive look at how we're managing that stormwater. So that's the first half of the equation, is getting the water off of the tracks. But the second half of that equation is not putting it into the communities where we're serving. So we've worked very closely with Department of Environmental Protection, other city agencies, to make sure they're anticipating what our needs are going to be, and that we can kind of leave the communities better off than when we arrive. That's really the goal here. We don't want to develop something that just takes it off our property and puts it somewhere else. Similar story is true about electrical grid. We've heard from communities about power issues that they might be having. The IBX project will be electrically powered, of course. And so, we hear concerns from a lot of community members that this project would, pull from the power resources that they're using. So Con Edison would, be the power supplier, but what does that mean for the communities? The good news here is that, IBX will be not operating on the residential electrical grid. So we'll be operating on a different system, which is, I think, reassuring to a lot of people. I think one of the things that we've really tried to do is work closely with Con Edison from the early days, even at the conceptual stage of the project, so that they can anticipate what our needs are going to be from a power standpoint, and that we're really doing this kind of smartly and holistically with the power system. So the goal here is similar to stormwater management, is to not pull from the residential grid and really kind of leave the communities better than when we started. So, all right, so next steps. So where does that take us? So I mentioned a lot of the public outreach that we've been doing. This is a very important part of the project. We've been doing it for 3 years or so at this point. It's 14 miles, so there's a lot of communities that we have to hit, but we're making good progress there. I'll show you a map kind of where we've been going, what we've been doing, and we've got more touch points coming up. So Katerina mentioned some of the future events that we're going to be hosting, pop-up events. We'll have more information soon on where we're going to be. Always looking for ideas on where to go next. But we'll have, the environmental impact statement touch point will be later this year, and we'll have dates on that soon as well. So these are the workshops. I mentioned kind of our goal of getting feedback from people rather than us talking to them. We want to listen. So we hosted a number of these this spring. We had 6, very well attended. We were really happy with the turnouts, and the feedback that we got was tremendous. And so, our work now is to take all that feedback back to the project, kind of understand some of the themes, what we heard, and how we can make the project better because of it. I think I'll just mention a couple of things that we heard at these latest workshops. The first one is that some of the most important things are related to safety, construction, and kind of local economic impacts. So, this is obviously something that we'll take a look at and see how we can, make sure we're listening to the community and they can anticipate kind of what that schedule is going to look like. The existing utilities, power systems, and freight operations. This is also, something that we'll be paying close attention to. I mentioned the electrical grid and utility constraints. So more to come there. And then the third bullet, ongoing engagement must be clear, accessible, and continuous. So this is, important to me, to the MTA, to the project. We'll keep listening, keep coming out, and keep getting your feedback. Just to kind of show you where we are in terms of next steps. So environmental review is the top bar that I mentioned. That's going to take us through the end of this year. Design is in pink. That'll basically carry us through to midpoint of next year, 2027. Beyond that, as I mentioned, we'll have to think about kind of how we want to construct the project. We're certainly not there yet, but that's a future phase that's coming up. The bottom bar is the most important in yellow, and that's continuous outreach. We want to keep coming out, keep listening, giving you updates, but just as much as we're talking and telling you what we're up to, we want to hear, that feedback. We've tried to come out early on this project, which is kind of how we're thinking about, like I said, the communities we serve and how we can make a better project because of it. And we have a survey on our website. You feel free to take a picture now, or you can go on to mta.info/IBX to access this survey. We've had a great response so far. I think we've gotten 700 or 800 surveys responses, all for the good of the project, and we read every single response. And with that, happy to turn it over for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now open for member questions and discussion.
I will also note, while we wait for questions, we have some flyers with the QR code of the survey if you don't want to, hold your phone up to the screen. So we have those flyers in English and Spanish, and also happy to email them to you or send some over to your district office.
Yes, please.
Hey, Kyle here from Councilmember Banks' office. I know initially when they talked about the project, they talked about, I believe, eliminating a stop on the L line or the 3 line, something. I just wanted confirmation. Was that still happening, or did you guys reconsider?
So what we did is we took out the IBX station at Sutter. So we obviously the L train will continue today. That doesn't change. We were very tightly spaced in the L train corridor. We looked at kind of where people were transferring, what the ridership looked like. That was a very lightly used in our model station. So the idea is that we would be operating an express service. You could still pick up the L at Sutter like you can today, and then from IBX you could pick it up at Livonia or Atlantic to the north.
Got it. And just to follow up, because I know the council member would probably say it, and also Chair Lohman would also say it. I know she said it at the last presentation, just to go out and maybe do a little bit more community engagement, just to kind of get the community's input on that. Yeah, so that's it.
Great.
Thank you.
Member Brown.
So this recent rainstorm that we had that was pretty bad and caused like a lot of trees down and whatnot. I'm thinking about the flooding issues that we're dealing with in New York City and how this project is going to impact it. Because I know you mentioned like a lot of the tracks are flooded or I mean, and obviously water does come down. However, a lot of the groundwater has been coming up in areas that don't typically get flooded. So what is the plan for that?
Yeah, so one of the good things about building a brand new project, a lot of what the MTA does is we retrofit existing facilities to make them more flood-proof or resistant to, rain events or severe weather. So the good news with this project is we're starting from scratch. So we can incorporate a lot of innovative design techniques like green design into the project. So there's things like water retention that we're looking at. There's also water detention. I forget the difference between the two, but a lot of those are, important to us. We have a lot of smart people at the MTA now from a sustainability standpoint thinking about these problems. So I can assure you that, we wouldn't want to make this generational investment without thinking through all those very specific design questions. And it's conversations that we have every day.
Okay, thank you.
Member Brewer.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for your presentation and thank you for listening to the community. I can hear the difference. I certainly appreciate it. And I do also appreciate the thought and time, as I mentioned before, in, having, helping us meet our transportation needs because it's difficult to get around this place, this island we live on. But since your presentation, it was brought to my attention by Assembly Nikki Lucas, the introduction of a bill by Assemblymember Khalil Anderson, the commuter van street hail bill. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but when I heard it, right, like 2 days after our presentation, I was thinking about what our commuter vans do for us. They pretty much meet that need of not having access to the mass transportation, right? And it's really along that same track that you're talking about. If you look from South Brooklyn over to Queens, and it actually covers it. The bill is A10323. And again, it's been introduced by Assemblymember Khalil Anderson. So in my years of being a board member with the community board and helping us plan so that we can live and thrive and function, the MTA has not been really good at handling the properties, right? The cleanliness, the maintenance. We generally have issues with getting the attention of MTA to take care of these things, right? So listening to the planned construction that has to take place and the money that it's going to take and the transfer of money and the opportunity, looking at this bill, this would suit the community a lot better and more directly, allowing the commuter vans to more directly take people back and forth and the economic opportunity and kind of tamp down on this huge agency that's a Goliath when it's time to, get it to really work for us. And that's what the agency is expected to do, right? It's expected to work for the people, but it's really hard to manage it. So just give it some thought. I would like everyone else to think about this when we're putting together our communities for functionality. And that's pretty much it. Just give it some thought, folks.
Member Gray.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Our community district, I think, is going to have 2 stops on the route, so it's Flatbush and Midwood. I'm excited about the plan. I'm urban planner, big fan of RPA too, so been tracking the IBX for a long time. It's the basis for a lot of my grad school studies. I'm not sure if I heard language about, I'm not sure if you guys are in the process about transit-oriented development and what is that going to mean for the neighborhoods. I think I just heard like from more of just like planning along the route, and I'm not sure if you guys are having conversations or will be having conversations or just thinking about not only from a transportation perspective, but also I think there's great opportunity, but also going to be great concern from neighborhoods in the future of their neighborhoods once construction starts, and then once the line gets there, what development near these transportation stops are going to look like. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. So I think I know it's still early in the process, so I guess I'm saying more of a comment, but would love to hear some of the future conversations be surrounding around reimagining what the future of those neighborhoods would look like in a post-finished IBX process. And I think it would be good to host walks and walkthroughs if you haven't already with every community board that would be impacted by the IBX.
We'll take you up on that. I'll just say briefly in terms of kind of a land use standpoint, we are, as a transportation authority, our responsibility kind of begins and ends with providing the transportation service. Obviously not a land use authority. That would be Department of City Planning or a City of New York function. But we've had, very early and frequent discussions with Department of City Planning and what their agenda might be. And we stand ready to assist and support whatever their vision looks like.
Member Baptiste.
Thank you so very much for the presentation. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I did have a couple of questions just in terms of the quality of life around the project. Currently, as it stands, it sounds like this is a seldom used, or it's like freight. So it sounds like there's a lighter usage that's happening. Transforming this into IBX sounds like it's going to be a major corridor, which is going to change the quality of life for the neighbors around. So definitely, I would like to make sure that there are conversations around making sure they aren't impacted too adversely. I mean, there will be changes, obviously, but making sure that they're not, too negatively involved. And even for those, I think that it was mentioned briefly that there were potentially could be some residential property acquisitions. And I did have concerns around that. Again, going to the nature of, I would almost suspect, not that I have any inside information, that some of the property values are probably a little bit more depressed because they're right next to train tracks. But making sure that if anybody has their property taken, at least they're given an opportunity to be able to get money that will enable them to live somewhere else, as opposed to, you buy it for a cheap price, but the money you give them is not going to enable them to continue to reside in Brooklyn or in the neighborhood or anything else after the property values shoot up. So those are just concerns that I have that I hope that as you continue discussion, your discussions,
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll just mention that one part of the environmental impact statement that we're preparing will focus on neighborhood character and how that could possibly change as a result of the project. So, it's a public document. We'll have more information on that when that comes out. And then I'll just reemphasize that, we're trying to avoid residential acquisitions wherever possible. The number we expect will be very small, not a zero number, but a very small number, and we'll minimize that wherever possible. It's a very regulated procedure whenever we have to acquire property. Eminent domain procedure law dictates the process, and we follow that to the letter when we have to pursue that. But like I said, it's very highly regulated. Compensation is obviously a big part of that.
Just as a follow-up to that, could you speak to the encroachments issue? That's sort of the opposite of the depressed property value. As residential uses back up to the train, they might take more space than is theirs.
Yeah, good point. So we're aware of that issue. Over the years, it's a rail corridor that's been here for 150 years. Some people have kind of slowly built their backyard into the rail corridor that hasn't really been used for anything. So, as we do our survey work, we're better understanding what those encroaching properties will be. We don't know what that looks like yet because we haven't finished those surveys, but we're aware that is potentially an issue that exists in the corridor today.
Member Hickey.
I have a couple questions. So first one is about transfers and the infrastructure improvements that might be needed to ensure smooth transfers. So just as an example.
Speak up.
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. Just as an example for some transfer improvements that might need to happen at the Atlantic L station where there is supposed to be a station, we also, that transfer passes through kind of the East New York LIRR station, and we have made quite a fuss to make that station ADA accessible, but also just upgraded because it's a long time coming. And it's a 5-ish, maybe 10-minute walk to Broadway Junction, which is also a pretty major transit hub. There are some severe DOT improvements that need to happen to make that walk much more accessible and safe for pedestrians. So that's my first question. My second question is about any labor agreements that you all have and how you are all envisioning the work that needs to be done and what the local hiring is going to look like. We are having some problems with the Broadway Junction local hiring agreements where only 10 local residents from the surrounding 8 zip codes have been hired for the massive ADA improvements there. That is not good. And no matter what the MTA says, it's just not good. So are you looking to improve upon that standard? And what does the hiring look like to make sure that people who live in the district can actually have an opportunity to work on the project?
Sure. So two great questions. I'll start with the first one first, which was kind of what the transfers are going to look like. I'm glad you mentioned Broadway Junction because one of the things that we did kind of early on in the conceptual phase of the project is we took the original IBX station location, which was going to be south of East New York Avenue. There's actually an old platform there today. We were just going to kind of use that same place. But we moved that north because that is such an awkward transfer, below Atlantic Avenue through that unpleasant underpass that I've walked through many times. So it is now north of Atlantic Avenue and closer to Broadway Junction to facilitate those transfers. We're still a block and a half or 2 blocks away or so from Broadway Junction. So it'll be an out-of-system transfer, still on the Omni system, so it'll be a free transfer. But we moved it closer to facilitate that connection. I think this speaks to the partnerships that we'll need to pursue with the city because MTA's jurisdiction doesn't extend onto the sidewalks. So we've gotten a number of we call that public realm or urban realm workshops with Department of Transportation because we're going to need their partnership for this project. And what that transfer looks like will be based on the success of this partnership that we have with the city. So that is very much front of mind for us as we move forward with the design of the project. In terms of local hiring, Katerina, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little too soon to tell exactly what that will look like for the project, but we're really excited to be able to innovate on that. And we'll make sure that we'll follow up with you for exact sort of percentages and what that will look like in the districts.
Can I ask a follow-up question on the transfer? So you said, because the rendering that I saw a couple of years ago, it had the entrance to the IBX as like a through cut south of Atlantic L, but now you're saying the entrance to the IBX would be north of the Atlantic L?
Yeah, so it'd actually be in the tunnel. So the tunnel, basically the southern part of the tunnel is at East New York Avenue. And then when you're moving north, basically the station will be at Havens Place. So the entrance still is yet to be determined. That's why we're doing the design, but it would be north of Atlantic Avenue. So closer to the Long Island Railroad station. We're looking for ways to tap into that connection. That's, I know you mentioned the ADA study at Broadway Junction. That's something that we'll look to tap into as well.
Thanks.
Member Hernandez.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm not sure if I missed this part, but I do have a question. Would there be any significant impacts to the surrounding subway lines? Because, trains are already delayed enough due to repairs, due to weather. So I live in Coney Island, right? We're not close to, I forgot the name of this new train line, but I am concerned about, any potential delays during the construction period.
Yeah, we'll look at that as part of the environmental impact statement, kind of what effects the IBX project has from a transit standpoint. We think they're almost entirely positive, but it could result in some shifting of customers from one line to another. We're very conscious of that. Fortunately, it's all MTA controlled, so we can adjust if we need to, but that'll be, in the environmental impact statement when we release that this year.
Thank you.
Member Camacho.
I don't think you're batting 100 MTA. With 8 people, we got NWBEs, we got Section 3 workers that you can get. You're giving us 8. That doesn't sound too good. 10. So I don't know what MTA is doing. Because I remember on Dithmarsh, you had to take on a house that was adjacent to the Myrtle Avenue train station. You own a house and it's empty. People need homes to live. So has that been empty? Is it still empty? You guys purchased that house because you had to get behind that train to fix the M line. Are you familiar with that on Ditmas?
So I'm not personally familiar with that property. Happy to follow up.
Yeah, well, you're not batting 100 neither because you took over that house and you're empty because you needed to bring the stuff back there and y'all purchased it. Maybe we can give it to a Latino or someone that can make a family that can make a home for it instead of closing it up and boarding it up and making it MTA. So is your RFP require Section 3 workers?
I don't know what RFP you're referring to, but we're way away from kind of releasing any RFPs on the project.
Meaning this is federal funded?
Not at the moment, no. It's currently locally funded by the state.
It's funded by the state.
Correct.
So you do have to take Section 3 workers, correct?
I'm not familiar with-
NWBE in regards to jobs?
So that'll be, when we do release an RFP for construction, we do have all of those.
That's what I just said. You
Yeah.
said it wasn't, I just said RFP.
We haven't reached that milestone yet. That's obviously very important to us.
Yeah, but with that milestone shouldn't be 10 though.
We're happy to get back to you, look into that and
Yeah, I just heard about that now, and they promised us jobs for that big ULUP that's in East New York, and our young kids, 17 and 18, are carrying guns and stuff and doing stuff about not giving them a tool for they can work with. If you want to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, when we get to the point of issuing any kind of construction RFPs, we'll make sure that we come back and talk about MWBE, local hiring goals, and
Yeah.
how we can work with specific community boards to make sure we're driving local numbers.
And also, we need a check, not just check a box and say that I got an application. I want to make sure that that application is adjacent to the kid. Because a lot of people check a box, I got an application or I got 10, but guess what? Nobody get called and the kids are still waiting for them to get called. So just not check a box.
Understood.
Member Lumen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the presentation. Being the chair of CB5, just listening to my counterparts, Mr. Camacho, and also Ryan, who represent Council Member Sandy Nurse. I just want to reiterate that I think it was April or March, April, when we were online and we were talking about the jobs. 10 is disgusting. 10. You guys had months, years of planning. We need to make sure the people in the community is being employed. I don't even know why y'all even said 10. You should have said you had no job. Because 10 is an insult. Community Board 5, 4, and 16. We have our council member, Mr. Banks. We have our assemblywoman, Ms. Lucas, Sandy Nurse at the lawn. There's an outreach there where you can get people in the community. I would like for you guys to really take it serious. Every week I'm getting a ping that someone got killed, shot, stabbed, and these kids. Let's try to get them off the street and give them something positive to do. So, I mean, there's a lot of resources. We have Cure Violence organizations out there that we can put you in touch with. We can have a job hall offering at the community board. We got to do a better job at what we're doing because to me, we're not doing enough. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Please, please, please consider our communities, consider our children. They are our future.
Yeah.
And we're losing them by the dozens every single day. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and emphasis on the need to have responsive workforce agreements and pipelines. We'll take that into note, as well as like note questions that are arising over the Broadway Junction project. Made note of it as chair. We will make requests for more information from that team who are not here today. Member Monzero.
Thank you. Good evening. I have two questions. One is what consideration has been made for homeowners along the line for noise and environmental pollution? And, have they been communicated with? And, like maybe people might need new windows or filters and that kind of thing. And I guess within that question, just like what the power source is for this line. Specifically thinking about air quality. And then my second question, kind of piggybacking on the other member's comment, is what plans are there for integrating stations into communities? Will there be like business booths? Like, in the old days we had newsstands, but nobody reads newspapers anymore. But, how are we using the physical space? And then also, I think a really strong opportunity for community involvement is the art that's in these stations and, hiring local artists, doing children's initiatives. I know Brownsville has like a major children's or youth art commission, and I'd love to see them empowered to do, whether it's like mosaics, if it's more of a traditional subway style, or paintings, that sort of thing, even if it's a rotating art program. But I think these are ways to make sure that the physical real estate of these stations is actually benefiting these communities as well as the transit opportunities.
Yeah, two great comments. The first one about noise and air quality. So when we're doing this environmental impact statement, I think this is the question that we get the most, because what are the noise impacts of the project? So we're doing that work now. When we do the analysis and we determine that there is a noise impact to a property, that starts the conversation about mitigation. So mitigation could be windows, like you mentioned. There might be some design solutions we can seek, like different tracks or maybe some noise barriers. These are all in the mix for possible mitigation. We just haven't gotten there yet. We're doing the work now. We'll have more information later this year on that. The second question about arts and design, a really interesting question because we've got at the MTA, we've got an MTA arts department. So we've had early conversations with them, but I think, so, we'll work with them as the project moves along. But I think more importantly, we wanted to hear a lot of this feedback from the workshops. So, we're starting to go through a lot of that feedback now. The way that we're kind of looking at the project from a cultural standpoint is very important. We've heard a lot of people expressing the same wish that, there'd be some hyperlocal arts installments or some way to reflect the community. It's very important to us. We're looking at that seriously. We don't have anything we can share yet, except, just to say that we hear the comment and we're taking that back and hope that we can do something.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I guess my ask would be to have it a little bit more intentional, whether maybe there's a particular person who that's their job, because even as I'm thinking, like, because this is outdoors, right? Maybe there's, when we think about buskers in the subway, is there a way to like make this a little bit more official? And again, give opportunities for people in these communities, at various opportunities. So even when you're having your workshops, really pointing it out, because people don't always know what questions to ask, but pointing that out and asking for people's input on what kind of art they want to see and, have, as opposed to just saying like, there's a department that looks at it, just because, it's a really big opportunity and it's going to affect our communities for a long time.
Thank you. We're happy to keep that conversation going.
And our last question of the panel will be from member Witherspoon.
Thank you. I just wanted to reinforce what the member just said in terms of noise pollution. There are neighborhoods, particularly with Long Island Railroad, where you could barely hear the train pass by. There are other neighborhoods where it's loud. So that's intentional. That's a choice. So I think it's really important to pay attention to that noise pollution and to reduce that noise when we know that we can reduce it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, that'll be a big part of our environmental impact statement. We'll have more to share soon.
All right, can we, oh, one last member Gray. Yes. All right, can we thank our panelists and guests? All right, we are now going to move on to our two agenda items. The first being a public hearing in the matter of Prospect Park Alliance, their proposal to create a large-scale outdoor exhibits at the Leopard's House Museum to permanently inscribe the previously overlooked histories of the Lenape and African peoples into the landscape, welcome descendant visitors in a way that signals the site is relevant to them and communicate to the broader public that these stories are important. This project is proposed to include accessible paths, abundant benches, and evocative vistas that will make the site a place to pause, learn, remember, and heal. Let us welcome the project team.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Dylan Yates, and I have the honor to be the Director of Museum Programs and Operations for the Prospect Park Alliance, which is stewarding this project.
My name is Jillian Pagano, and I'm a landscape architect supporting Dylan with this project.
So I'm just going to forward through some of the site slides situating the house, but it is at the corner of Empire and Flatbush, right across from the carousel, adjacent to the zoo, on the east side of the park. And we have a real opportunity here. Ever since 2021, when the Alliance first began what we call the Reimagine Lefferts Initiative to further focus interpretation and programming at this 1783 Dutch American farmhouse that was moved into the park in 1918, to focus programming on Indigenous history and the legacy of enslavement in Brooklyn. The site has had many different lives over the last 100 years that it's been a museum, and it's in a part of the park that was never fully designed, or the design was never fully implemented by Frederick Law Olmsted. So we have more flexibility than in other parts of the park, and a real opportunity, and these are just slides showing how much the house has changed over the years, to try to figure out how best to tell these foundational stories about Brooklyn, who built it, as well as New York, outside, so to maximize how many the visitors' appreciation of these important histories. These are the existing site conditions, but what I want to get to is that in 2022 and 2023, through the generous funding from the Mellon Foundation, we were able to do a 1.5-year-long solicitation of community guidance about how to tell this story right in our specific site. The site has been called Children's Corner for a long time because of the presence of the carousel and the zoo. That's a name that we are considering changing, but we need to be able to tell this story, these stories, in a way that is accessible for all ages and the full diversity of the people of Brooklyn, while honoring and prioritizing those visitors who are closest to this history. The argument being, if it works for the people closest to the history, then it'll work for everybody else. And so we published this 64-page interpretive plan that we were able to engage Ralph Applebaum Associates, which is a big museum firm, to help collect the information we got from our various forms of outreach to solicit community and especially descendant community guidance. We had 9 public meetings, really focusing on getting descendants who are local to us, as well as members of the Lenape diaspora, to participate. We hired 6 expert consultants in the field. We assembled a advisory committee made up of majority Brooklyn and majority descendant advisors who are real leaders doing this work. And we partnered with 38 local programs that are already doing, interpreting this history and already stewarding these cultures so that we can make sure that what the museum does in the park is complementing those existing efforts instead of distracting from them. And so as a result, and I really encourage you, if you have time, to go onto the Prospect Park Alliance website to see the full report. We came out with learning goals and various approaches for how to do this, which really prioritize inspiring visitors and making them proud of who they came from, and creating stories that are focused on biographies so people can learn about the resilience and the resistance necessary to endure hardships in the past and take those lessons for them today, while uplifting in a very fundamental way literacy about the importance of these cultures, indigenous and African, and how they built Brooklyn in the colonial period. The other elements of the plan are how to do that most effectively. One of the big things we got from these community guidance sessions was the importance of storytelling outside. Right now, the museum can only afford to be open May through November. It's open on weekends during the school year because we employ 6 high school students as docents, and then 5 days a week during the summer. But of course, people are in the park 24/7, 365. So how to bring outdoor art and history. The importance of cultural programming. We try to do during the open season 1 cultural program a week, usually Sunday afternoon, so it doesn't interfere with any of our program partners. But that's a very important part, not just static exhibits, but cultural programs generally. And then inside the house, a shift away from period rooms towards community co-curated exhibits. We have an exhibit up right now, co-curated by the Lenape Hoping Project, which is a video installation of Lenape telling stories about their relationship to this land. And we have a new exhibit that just opened 2 weeks ago, co-curated by the Shirley Chisholm Cultural Institute President Barbara Boulard, about Chisholm's legacy tied to the monument that's going up at Parkside. The majority, once we secured money from this plan, from the Mellon Foundation again, Assembly members Carroll and Cunningham, as well as Prospect Hill Foundation, we worked with Prospect Park Alliance architects and Parks Department architects to figure out what we could actually afford from this broader plan to implement at this time and what could actually work. This was a conceptual plan, not taking into consideration the presence of sewer lines and other practical considerations. And we pulled out these, and we also, of course, worked through our advisory committee to identify the key elements of the plan that we would actually put forward for the schematic review. And the main feature of this plan is on the southern side of the house, which is currently a woodland area, to create a processional path where visitors at any time can go and experience the overlapping histories foundational to this land. And that's what I'm going to go through very quickly today. But before we get to that, I want to show what is some important features, which is that we are going to be making the entrance from Flatbush Avenue accessible. Currently, there are 2 steps. This entire processional path will be made out of asphalt, so the whole area will be ADA accessible, which is currently mulch paths. We're going to be adding a programming shed to the north of the house, which is going to facilitate these weekly cultural programs, make it a lot easier and less expensive for us to put those on by being able to store materials on site. And we're going to be adding a brick patio in front of the house and on the park facing side of the house, so we can use the porch more effectively as a stage, and there'll be more accessible seating for people with mobility issues, as well as wheelchairs, and it'll be better for larger dance performances because they won't be dancing on grass. And we're going to be adding 18 new benches so people can sit and reflect on this history and enjoy the cultural programs and learn and have more opportunities to relax in this area. The first major element of this processional path is going to be a creation story element. That's a 30-foot wide planter in the shape of a turtle honoring the Lenape creation story. And this was designed in conjunction with the Lenape Hooking Collective and Brent Stonefish, its president, who came up with this idea. And there will be bronze decorative elements of the muskrat, the loon, the beaver, and the otter that helped recreate the world in the Lenape creation story. What you will also, as soon as you enter the site, see a map, probably in a relief on a large stone. We really try to minimize signage on the site to not distract from the natural beauty, but want to also give people a orientation to the different exhibit elements they will be encountering along the way. this is the precedent slide of the importance of these turtle creation story sculptures in various Lenape contexts. One of the big goals here is the house has an aesthetic and is an artifact of European colonization and settlement of the land. It does not immediately bring to mind the other stories that were essential in its creation and essential in the creation of Brooklyn. And so we want to be able to balance visually these stories to sort of work in conjunction with the house to show all the different layers of people who contentiously created what we enjoy today. On the other side of the path, the second element that you are going to encounter is a Dikenga Congo cosmogram built out of colored stone pavers, creating a plaza. This is on the other side of the path to show that the story of this land also begins in Africa, with the Africans forced to come to Brooklyn and the cultural wisdom that they brought with them, including the Dikenga cosmogram, which is a calendar, but also a spiritual symbol. And Congo is a very, very important place culturally for the first Africans forced to come to New York and Brooklyn specifically. And so we're going to create this plaza surrounded by benches where people can reflect on the importance of that wisdom that the Africans brought with them that allowed them to endure the conditions that they faced here. This will be a place, there will be electricity. This will be a place that we can program for storytelling, for musical programs, for dance, for ceremony, even if people want to do that. And these are some precedent slides of the use of Dikenga and also similar plazas in other contexts. Next, the next element is going to be a flax field. Flax was the cotton of Flatbush, and it was the growth, forcing people to grow flax that the Lefferts family were able to generate the money to build this house. So we created this field with a colonial era timber rail fence so that people will understand the importance of that agriculture in the development and help people realize who was growing that and why. The flax field also helps explain that Europeans brought notions of private property, rectilinear planning, commercial agriculture, which was not what the Lenape were doing previously. And so this is going to be a place where people can reflect on that. And our idea is to have large stones in front of each element that have short titles in them in the various languages. Munsi, which is the Lenape language, Congo for the Congo. This will be a Dutch word. We haven't picked those words. Our advisors are still thinking through which words those will be. The next exhibit element is actually the house itself. And there's going to be a 30-foot long interpretive panel concentrating all of the information you're going to need to know to get an introduction to this site in one sign along our accessibility ramp already. So it doesn't distract from any of the sight lines of the house. It doesn't distract from the natural beauty, but you'll be able to learn more at this sign, clearly explaining each of the elements. We're also going to develop an audio tour. We're also going to train our teens to give the tour. We're also hopefully going to have some videos with the different artists and experts that we have been collaborating with on all these projects so they can explain them in greater detail. But the sign will also be a really key place for people to learn more. The next exhibit element as you're leaving then the house is our Freedom Seeker standing stone element. These are going to be two groups of standing stones inspired by traditions across the continent of Africa of standing stone monumental architecture, representing two real freedom seekers that we have been studying at the museum. One is Isaac, who with his family was able to escape from the Lefferts plantation in 1818 successfully. And they are going to be depicted in a line of different stones that we're going to be working with artist Adama Delphine Fawandu to select those stones. And another grouping based on Betty, who decided to continue working for the Lefferts family for decades after enslavement was over in 1827 in New York. We believe in order to care for people who had no place to go. And so she decided to stay so she could help raise that next generation of her kin. And those will be clustered, a group of cluster stones. And those stones will be explained on that sign that is just a few feet away. Here's some precedents of those stones. And then we're going to have a healing garden in the center of this processional area with a plaza inside that you can sit in. We're going to be working with a group of experts, but also landscape stewards to select both native and culturally resonant plants that can survive in this area that we can use for programming, and people can sit and reflect on this important history and heal from it. And then this is the path going back. Here's a slide of how programming will be facilitated at Lefferts Historic House. I do encourage you to check out our programs online because we do weekly programs. This coming Sunday actually is a Haiti to Brooklyn exploration of the Haitian Carnival tradition, but we do different programs every week. These are images of the shed, the programming shed and the maintenance shed that's going to be tucked away behind the trees to the north, right by the fence to the zoo. That's going to be connected with an asphalt path so we can easily wheel out. We have chairs, we have pop-up tents, we have other programming materials that we set up in the yard to facilitate audience enjoyment and appreciation of these programs. There's another view of the shed. We're using even though we're doing some not so standard parks things, we're using very standard parks materials, so it will seem seamless for a lot of people and it won't distract. And this is an opportunity for people to understand what was this land, what happened on this land before the park existed, the pre-park landscape. And here are the schematics of the fencing that we're going to be removing some fencing and adding other fences. We're going to create a pad for facilitating the loading and unloading of materials, and we're hoping someday food trucks could also sit on that pad that could complement our events. We're going to have very simple signs that are really going to privilege accessibility and visibility. And here is an example of the type of signage that we would have alongside the wall. And we're going to be adding lighting to those areas of the site that are not currently lit because we're going to be adding elements into those sets. So now I think that's it, and we can just end this slide. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
We'll now open to discussion from board members. Member Williams. Wait, hold on one moment for me. There we go. Thank you,
Just
Member
wanted
Williams.
to know the funding for all of this, where it's coming from. Because in my district, we are fighting hard, tooth and nail to get bathrooms. You know what I mean? This is beautiful, but we are fighting so hard to get working bathrooms. 3 years in city parks, no working bathrooms. So I just wanted to know where the funding was. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that is a huge problem, the bathrooms, and we face it too. This is entirely funded by privately and the state. There's no city money or parks money involved in any way.
Thank you.
Member Baptiste.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And my apologies if I missed it. So time frame and next steps, what are we looking at? Well, we are hoping to get approvals at the city level by the end of the summer or early fall, if possible, which will release the Mellon portion of the money. The other money has already been released. Then we anticipate about 6 months to do the construction drawings to get that finally done. And then because it's private money and then state reimbursements, we could start construction potentially about a year from now.
And could you clarify which city approvals you need? There was a question prior to the meeting on, is that the LPC and PDC, or Public Design Commission and the Landmarks Preservation Commission?
Yep, and SHPO because they're state money.
And what is SHPO for those who are not in the preservation?
Historic Preservation Office.
Yes. The State Historic Preservation Office is another site of approval that is required for this project. Also commonly known as SHPO. So you hear that. Member Brewer.
Thank you. Dylan Yates, that's a name I'm going to remember. I so appreciate everything about your presentation. You had no way of knowing this, but this is one of my grandson's favorite spots. And we frequent it. I am really excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. That's wonderful.
there any additional questions or comments from members of the Borough Board? Okay, hearing none, we will now make space for any members of the public who are here who would like to provide testimony to the Borough Board on this item. No one has signed up or notified us, and no one is signed up to provide additional testimony from the public. And so with that, we will close this public hearing on the proposal for the Prospect Park Alliance at the historic Lefferts House. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Maybe.
And please come visit.
We may choose as a board to vote on this item today. We do have some legacy voices that have been around Prospect Park issues who are in the room today who will not be in the room next time, as we indicated. So just want to, Member Pena.
Hello. I would like to motion that we support the project, given that we will likely not meet until September.
No, there's a second for that. In that, we have a couple of procedural things to do. First, procedural question is, does the board want to vote on this item today? And so there's been a motion to support this project in advance of the September meeting. It's been seconded. And so all those in favor of voting on this project today, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we are now able to vote on this. There's been a question that's been raised. Please go ahead and share your question procedurally.
Will this proposal be brought to the city council for a vote, or just to
No, just to the Landmarks Commission, to the state office, and to the Design Commission as well. Prospect Park is designated as a landmark in the city, and so they will be assessing its fit within the history, legacy, and character and appropriateness. So they will be granting a certificate of appropriateness to this project to be compatible with the designated landmark, because there is some state money. The Design Commission will weigh in, and because it is a state recognized landmark and there is some state money, it will be under review under the state Historic Preservation Office. Another question from Member Rita.
Thank you, Chair. I make a motion that we vote on this item by a voice vote.
Okay. The next item that we need to discern is whether this is an item of borough-wide significance that would enable all members on the board to vote on this item, as opposed to just those council districts and community districts that are. I'm seeing a motion to. Okay, is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. All right, so we have now indicated that we want to vote on this item today. That is a matter of borough-wide significance, and it was unanimous. Sorry. And so is there a motion to you move? Was that?
You made the motion.
You made a motion for a voice vote. Okay. We had to do that first procedural thing. So first and second, motioned and seconded. All those in favor of indicating support for this project, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you all. So we will issue a letter of support from the Borough Board to the relevant bodies and share that with the applicant team as well. We will now move on to our second public hearing. in the matter and sale and development of Parcel A in Coney West, New York City by Economic Development Corporation, EDC. I will let them introduce the project and their project team. Just to note that EDC will be presenting the business terms of the transaction to the board to comply with the 384B4 process.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Spencer. My name is Greg Vangert. I am the Brooklyn Borough Director of Government Affairs at EDC, and I'm joined by my colleague Anthony. Really excited to present the business terms for the Coney Island West Parcel A development. And with that being said, I will turn over to my colleague Anthony from our real estate transactions team to work through a really brief presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. As Greg mentioned, my name is Anthony Hashef. I'm from the real estate team at EDC and was a part of the project team that worked on this Parcel A RFP. So before we get into the business terms, what is Parcel A? Where is Parcel A? A majority of the parcel is the current overflow lot for the Brooklyn Cyclones. It's a 160 space surface parking lot just north of the Child's Building in Coney Island Amphitheater. And the rest of the site is that portion between the overflow parking lot and the newly constructed Ocean Way. Also, as a part of the transaction is up to 175,000 square feet of zoning floor area from Parcel B, which is the Child's Building and Coney Island Amphitheater. So a major impetus for this project was Mayoral Executive Order 43, which compelled New York City to review its public land, which was suitable for new housing. So that was a driving force behind this project in the RFP. EDC released the RFP in February of 2025, and after a competitive RFP process, selected Ryback Development to undertake the project and executed a contract of sale with them in October of 2025. So what is the proposed development? It is approximately 550 units of new housing, 25% of which will be permanently affordable of AMIs between 40% and 100%. The development program is consistent with UAP, which is Universal Affordability Preference, and 485X, the tax abatement. There'll be approximately 30,000 square feet of retail, commercial, and/or community facility space. And then there's a parking component to this as well. So there'll be approximately 70 spaces for residents, which is consistent with the zoning that's required for a development of this size, as well as no less than 160 spaces of public parking, which is to replace the 160 spaces of current parking that exist on the surface parking lot. So just quick notes on the approvals. So the disposition of this site was approved in the ULURP for the Coney Island rezoning in 2009. So a redevelopment of this parcel was contemplated in 2009 as a part of that rezoning. Similarly, in 2009, there was an FEIS issued pursuant to seeker as a part of that rezoning. And then most recently in April of this year, there was an updated technical memorandum or a tech memo that concluded that the proposed development would not have any significant adverse environmental impacts not already identified in that 2009 FEIS. So finally, the business terms for this transaction. As I mentioned, EDC executed a contract of sale with Ryback Development in October for the purchase of the land that I described, as well as up to 175,000 square feet of development rights. The purchase price for this transaction will be $12 million. The purchase price may be reduced for an environmental mitigation credit that is to be determined. And then the proposed project was consistent with the RFP goals, which were to maximize development and housing at this site, as well as limit any public subsidy. So there is no public subsidy provided to this project other than the as-of-right tax abatement that they qualify for. And then the purpose of the disposition is to transform an underutilized parking lot into 550 new units of housing and replace the public parking that was there previously. So pursuant to 384 before, EDC is here to request adoption of the resolution to approve the sale of the property.
All right, we will now open discussion from members of the board. I'm going to start with Member Hernandez.
So I just wanted to point out that Ryback Development asked CB13 for a letter of support. It was anonymously decided at the Land Use Committee meeting to send out a letter of support if they agree to the following conditions. So the conditions are periodic construction updates, to become a member of community organizations like Southern Brooklyn COAD, emergency action, and community safety. And also to have a community meeting space for community groups, and for the developer to consider offering and hiring qualified local workers for construction, maintenance, and porter positions. CB13 believes that these items all at a minimal cost to the developer. And just wanted to say one last thing. So in today's presentation, none of these conditions were mentioned. In order to continue with the letter of support, we would need clarification if Ryback has accepted these conditions. I have also a printed copy of the letter outlining the conditions to provide us testimony, and that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hernandez. Would you like to respond?
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you so much for that. Yes, so Ryback has received the letter with the conditions, and they're actively working to respond to all of them. And as Ryback, who has met with community board and us several times over the last probably year or so, there's positive momentum towards those conditions. And as soon as that letter is ready, we'll 100% share with you. But that letter response is, I would say, imminent, unless you have anything else to add. Yeah, it's pretty much imminent. Like, should be coming to us any day now, and then sending it over to CB13.
Is this very close to the aquarium? It's right next to it, right?
Not right next to it.
Well, a block, but will it have an effect on the animals at the aquarium, the building? Will you take that into account?
It should have no effect, is a part of the technical memorandum that the developer was required to complete. They didn't identify any adverse impacts. So, no, yeah.
Let me just add, we've also, along the way, before we even reached the RFP, we met with all the stakeholders in Coney Island, and the aquarium was one of them, and they had no reservations about any impact to their facilities or anything like that.
And the second thing is that since 2009, there's been a lot of development in Coney Island, but I know for a fact a lot of those buildings are still having trouble renting, and they're considered so-called affordable. But the NYCHA buildings are falling apart. Is there anything with your organization that would try to supplement fixing up the NYCHA buildings, or support doing something with the NYCHA buildings so that they're not surrounded by all of this, quote, luxury buildings, when the people who live in the NYCHA buildings deserve to have livable apartments?
Could take it.
I think we hear your concern. EDC is independent from those NYCHA projects, so.
But you're going to be a part of the community. You're going to be a part of the community. So the NYCHA buildings are part of the community. So if you're going to be concerned about the surrounding areas, you should be concerned about that too. Just a thought.
Thank you for your comment. Member Baptiste.
Excuse me, please. What? Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have several questions, actually. Okay, I'll give out the questions. You can respond to them as you have. I'm curious as to what the terms of the RFP were, in terms of, how they were responsive. I wanted to know if the developer is locked in. And I asked that question in the context of we've seen several properties that have been redeveloped or rezoned. And what ends up happening is the developer flips it after that for a multiple of whatever they paid for it. So I just wanted to make sure this is just not some real estate deal that the city is funding and, and we're not getting fair market value. Additionally, I guess along those lines as well, how was 12 million settled as a purchase price, as it sounds like that's low in terms of, I'm not sure if the city is getting fair value for that, because again, to the point where land, they don't make more of it, and it's been a hot commodity. So selling it for $12 million seems like we really underpriced that. And along those same lines, I'm surprised that we're only able to negotiate for 25% affordable and basically meaning 75% market rate. I don't know what benefit that comes back to the community when we're giving those kinds of deals away, because basically all we're doing is doing market pressure for everything else that's around there. Everything else is going for market rate as we're creating.
If we could just, can you tick through so we have terms of the RFP and how they were responsive. So the primary terms of the RFP were to maximize the development potential of that parcel. We wanted to provide as much housing as we could for that site. So they were responsive in that aspect. And then another key component of that was zero public subsidy going into the project, which not only did is there zero public subsidy, there is a purchase price above zero public subsidy. And touching on one of those questions of the purchase price, as a part of this project, the developer is building at their own cost that public garage. So that was a significant consideration in the value and in terms of the purchase price that they could offer. So they're building that public garage at their own cost. And so that was a consideration in the terms of the economic value that could be provided at the site. Sorry, what were the other? There were two more.
Is the developer locked in? So in other words, they're not going to flip the land.
Yes, is a part of the conditions of our contract that we are selling them the property for. They are required to hold the property for a period of time to avoid that exact scenario. So the goal is when EDC does these, we do our RFPs, we want to ensure that the development team that we're working with is going to be the development team that's going to be there and own and operate the property. So that is a chief concern that we have throughout the RFP process, and that is baked into our legal agreements.
If I could just add, Ryback Development also has several properties in the district at the moment, and they are managing them, owning them. They haven't flipped them. And it doesn't seem like that's the plan for this as well. And they're within the community. I think they have 3 developments as of now within the community.
Okay. Just some quick comments on that. One, I'm not sure if that's a great thing where all of a sudden you make a landlord, even a bigger landlord in there, because yeah, I mean, if they already have 3 developments and you give them that, they kind of have a monopoly in terms of the prices, in terms of what rents are in the district. That's a concern. The other piece of that, again, and it goes back to the sale price, where I'm not sure how we're bargaining here, where we're selling it to them for a dream in the hopes that they'll give us 25% affordable apartments when, as the owner, I think anybody who has property, you understand, you command a much higher price in the market. So I think that at the very least, if we're going to sell property, New York City property, it should at least enable us to be able to do other things in terms of affordable housing and supportive housing and other programs as well. I'm not totally convinced that we're getting fair market value as a borough and as a city cutting these kinds of deals. Thank you.
We have 2 questions from my colleague here. I will also just say that, this is being developed under the existing zoning. It was rezoned in 2009 before mandatory inclusionary housing was a thing. Part of the technical memorandum that is prepared for this is in response to City of Yes. So City of Yes allows for additional floor area using the universal affordability or UAB. And so some of those are factors, as well as 485X and the state program to incentivize development to include affordable housing, we sort of see all of those elements of like the legacy of a rezoning from previous administrations, new state program under the governor, and a new zoning entitlement under the last mayor that are sort of showing up in this project. And I thank you for your questions.
I just want to follow up on some responses to Chair Baptiste's question. You mentioned they're building a public garage at their own cost. Does that mean that the parking will be free?
The parking won't be free. It'll be subsidized rates, but the cost is borne by the developer rather than the city or public entity.
So who's going to get the parking fees? The city or the developer?
They'll sell it. There'll be a split between who receives portions of that. There's also existing agreements with the Brooklyn Cyclones, so the Cyclones will receive some of those as well.
Okay. And my next question, I think Brooklynites might have a little trauma on this one. We're saying that the developer is required to hold the property for minimum time before they can sell based on the terms of the RFP. When you say the property, is that the empty land or the already completed project?
At that point in time, it would be the completed project.
Okay, thank you.
Member Munzret.
Good evening. My first question is, what are the unit sizes for the building?
I think that it's still being determined, but in terms of unit mix, there is going to be a significant portion of 2 and 3 bedrooms. It's not going to just all be studio and 1 bedrooms.
Okay, I mean, that's a significant importance to us that, units are big enough for full families, and not just individuals. So candidly, I personally feel like we can't make a vote today because it feels like there's a lot of outstanding questions. The unit sizes, the information on who's profiting from the parking, the length of time that the developer has to hold onto the property, the questions that CB's 13 had. So it just feels like this isn't necessarily ready to approve. And then my other comment is that the 70, well, I guess the first question is how close the building is to a train station, because the 70 parking units for 550 units in Coney Island seems very low, because Coney Island is not like a major transit hub. I know they have at least 1 train station, but not a ton. And so 1 parking spot for every 8 or so units feels low. And then similar to Ms. Church, I have a lot of questions about who's profiting from the parking, because if we're essentially saying that we're we're discounting the land because this developer is providing parking, but it's not free, but we're calling it public, and it's not clear who profits, that feels a little, I would just say the information feels incomplete to feel comfortable voting on this.
For comments, Member Roden.
You said, well, there is transportation because that's the transit hub at Stowell Avenue. So that's every train goes into there, and there's buses. But you said they have 3 other projects or developments in the district. Which other ones are they?
Off the top of my head, there's Sky 3.
Where?
That's on West 5th and Neptune, I believe. They have the Seabreeze Tower, which is Seabreeze Avenue right across the street from the park. And I got to remember what the third one is. Those 2 for sure, and then I got to look up what the third one is exactly.
We will get back to the members of the board with that information. Member Camacho.
Is there any way you can give us a breakdown on the units? Because when you say 25%, what's 25%? I want to know how many apartments. How many apartments are going to be 2 and 3? Or are you going to do studios and 1 and make believe you throw them in there? Maybe only 1 and say, well, I got your 2 kids, in the side, because that's what you guys normally do. But I wanted to make sure that the AMIs that you are imposing with the 25, which is 40%, it comes for how many studios you have?
We can get
I'm-
back to you on the overall unit mix.
Well, how you guys want us to sign off on something when we don't trust you? I don't trust you. Two, we've been framed by people like you guys that come in here and says, I don't have it now, then all of a sudden sell the property to someone else and say the deal wasn't with us, it was with this one. Is it gonna be deed out to make sure that they don't do that? Because we had that in our development on the Wrangell site. We sat there and we made a deal like Monty Hall. All of a sudden, the developer sold it after we changed the zoning and sold it outright and turned around and says, well, the deal wasn't with me. It was with somebody else, so no more. So you're not giving us something that we can vote on. So you're talking about 25. You don't know how much it is on a 25. You don't know how much it is on 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom studios, right? You don't know anything. But yet, I'm gonna show my brothers and sisters, if it's 40 AMI, on a studio is 1,135. So if you have a senior on that month, he don't qualify. On a 1-bedroom, 2,015. On a 2-bedroom, 1,458. And on a 3-bedroom, 1,685. That's 40 AMI. And if you keep going up to where they want at 100, 2,835 for a studio, 3,335 for 1-bedroom, for a 2-bedroom, 4,010, 3,610, and for a 3-bedroom, it's 4,200. So you're making ching ching, let the cat registering on account of us. But yeah, you're not giving us any numbers. Just want to show us what it is. How many units are going to be? How are you breaking them down on the 25%? And are the 2 and 3 bedrooms a part of the 25%? Because I know a lot of people come in, yeah, we come with family. We don't come with a dog and a roommate. You understand what I'm saying? All right, so I like talking to people like you guys because you guys got good numbers, but you don't bring nothing. And you want us to vote on something. And then I'm seeing on this page here, everybody should know that Section 30884-4 New York City Charter, the mayor may disperse city-owned property to the local development court with the borough board's approval. With the borough board approval. So guess what? He didn't give you anything. He didn't give you the numbers. He didn't give you how many bedrooms. So I think when he get his stuff together and give us the right number, then I think we should, because this is too vague and it's not right.
Camacho, would you be able to summarize a couple of questions that you have that are outstanding that haven't been addressed today? Hey, you've said the number of units and the mix of units. Are there additional pieces of information that you would like before you make a decision?
Yes. Yes, he would have to, because why would we vote something and then he turn around and give us a studio at 40% AMI and the 40%, it'll be 1,135, so it's a studio. So imagine a young kid that just got a job or a senior that only get $965 in one of those lotto, he don't qualify for this. He don't. So you're not helping the people to become. So you need to come back with how many 3 bedrooms, and it's gonna be part of the 25%, 2 and 3 bedrooms. How many studios part of the 25%? So if you break, you know the numbers, y'all not dumb, y'all know how to play with numbers, right? Give us down, 2, 3, then we can negotiate. We say, well, guess what? We want 3 3-bedrooms, we want 2 2-bedrooms, and we want studios, or we want 1 bedroom for.
I can respond to the
Please.
units. So there's 25% 2 bedrooms for the market rate portion. There will be 25% 2 bedrooms for the affordable portion. So whatever the portion of the unit mix is from the market rate units, it has to be the same proportion for the affordable units. That's all to say there can't be all affordable studio and 1 bedrooms, then all the markets are 2 and 3. Those proportions have to be the same.
Yeah, but portion behind it in the market rate.
That's right, it's not.
Like if the building has 10 total 3 bedrooms, then like 3 market is better than helpful.
We can get back to you with the unit mix.
Yeah, please do.
Do you know if the development team is intending to use 485X as well?
Yes.
Can you remind the Borough Board of what are the requirements or some of the requirements for projects that are over 100 units under that program?
Yes, so the construction wages for the project are a minimum of $40 an hour for all trades. The building service workers, once the building is construction, are required to be paid prevailing wage. And 485X requires 25% of the units be fully affordable and permanently affordable.
Are you taking Section 3 workers?
Section 3 workers would be eligible under 485X, but that's, I think, a question for the development team.
Okay, but I just want to tell you what's going on in our spot with Section 3 and with you guys when they hire. What they do is this is what our scoopers developers do. They hire the employer, Section 3 worker, right? They give them the $40 an hour, right? Then they say they got their partners. They take them and they move them to another spot, another site, and they say, oh, well, since you're not on that site, we're going to lower your wage from this side. And I've been fighting them, and I got them to get back on the work spot with that money that there was. The reason why you took Section 3 is because they're from within this development, and the RFP was within this development. And by you removing him and putting him somewhere else and saying, well, we didn't need you here, and we gave you, instead of $40 an hour, we gave you $15 an hour. But yet he was a Section 3 worker on the RFP that was in that site. Think about that.
Member Baptiste.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just also wanted to make sure we, in terms of, oh, yeah, sorry. If you could just kind of give us an overview of timeline and process. So what steps are we required to do and what's after this?
Yeah, with the assuming approval of the terms, the development team is expected to close on the transaction of April of next year, at which point they will begin construction, and then construction slated to be approximately 30 to 36 months. So we would see the units being delivered in the spring of 2030.
And what other approvals are required for to get to that point?
We have 384 before, which we're here for today, and then the EDC board has to approve the transaction as well. And we've got all approvals necessary for the environmental review process. So those would be the approvals that would be needed.
Can you speak to the other, like what number of applications did you receive in response to the RFP, and what sort of stood out about this proposal amongst the other applicants?
Yeah, so we received 5 applicants for the RFP process, and the way EDC does it, it's a competitive process. We bring all teams along and negotiate terms and see their vision for the project through various interviews, negotiating the legal contracts alongside all teams. And I think Ryback's ability to lower to have no public subsidy ask as a part of this project, to be able to deliver this amount of units with the requirements of UAP and 485X, and their proven track record of doing developments of this size in South Brooklyn were some really key reasons why they ended up being the selected developer.
Thank you for that additional context. So for the board, just to summarize a little bit of the conversation that I have heard, there's been some questions that have been raised around the sort of value of the sales price, the depth of the affordability, and the relationship between how project benefits are translated into that sales price. So those things feel very much within the context of reviewing the financial transaction that's gone on here. We will, I think, table this discussion until our next Borough Board meeting for a vote. I think that there are too many outstanding questions. We will try to summarize those questions and get responses from the applicant team, as well as any additional information that might be helpful to support that discussion. And so I think would like to go again, open for any like clarifying questions that you would like to have answered, that are sort of on the subject of the value of the deal and the sale of the land, that you would like to have at our next Borough Board meeting if possible. Yes.
I think we need to discuss.
Yes.
Also, sorry, just to respond, they have two developments, not three. Sorry, the third one I was thinking is a different developer. So it's the Seabreeze Tower and the Sky 3. So- I'm sorry? The one with the stores on Neptune's is Sky 3, and then the Seabreeze Tower is the one across the street from Seabreeze Park, which is, it has some commercial on the other side of the building, like a daycare. Yeah, it has like a daycare, which my son actually goes to, and like a deli and some other thing.
Please.
My question is in consideration of the culture of the area, specifically with Maimonides Park. I know this isn't something that can be set in stone or anything like that, but just mentioning that the developers had conversations with nearby stakeholders, wanted to know if there was a conversation around noise, specifically the fireworks coming from Maimonides Park, and like the regularity of those fireworks.
I'm sorry, is the question the effect of those fireworks on the development?
Just with folks moving in, I imagine there will be complaints, things like that, and just if those conversations have been had, again, this is something to consider for September and not something I expect a specific response to, so.
I will say that in some of our experience reviewing land use issues here at Borough Hall, folks have gotten very savvy in their ability to design for like noise considerations and challenges with like triple pane windows. Some developers will also include a noise addendum to their lease that sort of says, hey, you live in an entertainment district. And so that has typically been the response that we have heard from similar applications in ULURP. And I would imagine that some of those things would happen here, given the proximity to the baseball park and just the cultural activity that happens in Coney Island. But I think that that's a good question. Thank you.
To that point, sorry, I'm understanding better now. As a part of their technical memorandum that they had to do as a part of the environmental review, they had to do a noise attenuation study on noisy days in the summer to understand the impacts of those things on the development. So that was considered as a part of the approval for their technical memorandum.
Yes,
I just want to add that we do have, discussions covering noise, specifically because I that's an amusement area, right? The fireworks, the music, for example, we just set a condition that music has to be turned off by 10 p.m., right? So I just wanted to give an example that, those talks are definitely happening.
Okay. Believe we've got a bunch of Member Camacho. Do you have additional comments?
Yeah, I see here that he says purchase of the air rights. You're purchasing air rights on somebody's block. What was the total cost of your air right price? It says here air rights up to 175,000 square feet from block 70701, lot 12. How much you purchased? 12,000. Then it says the purchase may be reduced by an environmental credit offset permanent. So what does that mean in regards to you adding more affordability if the environmental study is the purchase price is less than that, and you're going to save money later on? And the purpose of the consult with the RFP goals, which you do have an RFP, the purpose of disposition, transforming and utilizing space, parking lot. So what is the air rights? Is you're taking somebody else's spot that's there?
I believe the question is EDC purchasing those air rights, or is that part of the RFP respondents' commitment to purchase those air rights as part of the development?
Yes, those air rights are included in the purchase, the $12 million purchase price, and is included in the development of Parcel A. And those air rights are coming from the southern building, which is the Child's Building, and the Coney Island Amphitheater, which is city-owned property.
So if I own a house, next to me, I can benefit from the air rights to sell my air rights to this.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are air rights. Yes. All right. We are losing folks as we get later into the evening. We will stay in touch with the applicant team on discussions in terms of like potential impacts on the project as it relates to our meeting schedule and get back to folks as well as the team. And this item will be on our agenda for the next Borough Board meeting. I'm going to go ahead and close this close the public hearing, not the meeting yet, just the public hearing, and pass it over to my colleague here. Thank you to the applicant team.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay. Okay, great. I'll be really quick, but we do have a couple of things we want to bring to your attention. A reminder to all community boards that it is a requirement to post, to maintain a website, to post meeting notices, agendas, and minutes to that website, and to keep it up to date. Just a reminder, because we've been receiving public complaints in areas where this isn't being done. And then I want to close on a note of really good news, and that is, if you haven't heard it yet, that the hybrid meetings have been extended to 2028. So thank you all for contributing to that advocacy, that, you know, the state legislature, they have listened to us. And I guess others as well. All right, so with that, I'd like to call for a motion to
Right, don't need a motion to adjourn.
well, we could give Chair Pena and Chair Baptiste, you know, their last motions.
Atis.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Okay, since they're not here, all in favor? Any opposed and abstention? Motion carried. Thank you.